you've all been waiting for. It's time!
Welcome to the show where the screams collide, where blood runs cold and the shadows hide. Each week a fight, two films will clash. Last week's champ, will it burn to ash? The Roasted Snow Horror Show, where fear and gore will always flow. One film wins, one must go. The Roasted Snow Horror Show. Chainsaws buzzing, monsters creep. We'll dig up secrets buried deep. Slashers, ghosts, and creatures vile. The grudge match starts, so stay a while. The Roasted Snow Horror Show. Who's the king of the terror throne? One film wins, one must go. The Roasted Snow Horror Show. Lights go down, the fight begins. Which nightmare takes the final win? You pick your side, we'll break it down. The Roasted Snow, the goriest showdown. The goriest showdown.
Welcome to the first episode ever of the Roasted Snow Horror Show. I'm your host, Ryan Rosted. Everybody confused my last name with Roasted. And I'm here with my co-host, Chris Snow. Roasted? Snow? Didn't figure out how it wasn't that hard to jump to. How you doing,
It was good
Chris?
and clever. I thought it was fantastic. I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome now that we're here. So you just want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and kind of what your thoughts are on this.
100%. Well, I mean, you and I have been throwing around an idea, but well, I mean, obviously, you kind of bored the idea of the podcast, and you kind of threw it my way because you and I have a shared love of good horror and good horror films, and we thought, if there was a crowd that we could find somewhere that would want to kind of indulge in the same things that we do and talk about horror and love horror the way that we do, I mean, the next best thing would be to start a podcast, and heck, here we are.
Absolutely. And first thing to know about this show is that it's going to be about 95% unscripted. So Chris and I are only going to talk about the general outline and what movies we're discussing. I'm not going to ask him his thoughts until the show, and he's not going to ask mine. So we're going to do this live, and we're going to find a way for people to comment and join the conversation. However, because there's no way any of you are going to agree with everything that we say, and we're not even going to agree with what each other say. But I second what Chris just said. We knew each other for a while, and then we really just started talking around these movies, and especially with the horror genre, I think it's not one size fits all. There's something out there for everybody. I truly believe that. Even people that say that they hate scary movies or they won't watch them, I still think there's something out there for them. There's horror comedies, there's dark horror, there's gory horror, there's romantic horror, there's sci-fi. The list goes on. And I think a lot of the times when people are as into these movies as we are, it can kind of set them on the outside of their certain friend group or other relationships. Like, oh, you just like watching scary movies, you just like gore and all that. And it's so much deeper than that. So then I'll just ask you, Chris, what is your first memory of horror and kind of what got you stuck on this? And then I'll answer mine, but I'm interested to hear yours.
I'll never forget my mom she'd always, do you remember being, gosh, we must have been 8 or 9 years old, and TBS or TNT would always have some horror movie playing at night. It was almost like a rite of passage every Friday night. They'd have some horror movie playing. Well, I remember Pet Cemetery the Stephen King Pet Cemetery movie. The old I think it was 1987 or 1989. They made the film of that. That came on, and I was terrified. Let's start with that. But ever since I watched that movie, I gravitated towards horror. I loved reading scary books. I loved watching scary movies. I loved, when my parents would go to bed, I'd kind of sneak out in the living room and see what was on, and see what scary movie was playing. And then, as I got older, as I got into college, and started working my professional career, we've kind of hit this. I almost want to call it like a renaissance with the Shutter app. We'll start with that. With streaming and Netflix and Prime, it's given this new avenue of just a dearth of horror films, and I've jumped right in. But it takes me right back to that first experience watching Pet Cemetery, being completely terrified, having nightmares that night, and then waking up the next day and saying to myself, "Man, I want to do that again." So you could call me a weird kid, but you could call me a kid that learned to love horror pretty early. So
It's like that meme, hey, fuck you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
it's true. Fuck you
I'll
very
tell
much. Call me in the morning.
that's an intense one to get, especially being a kid. I mean,
I
there's
mean,
there's a lot of kid violence in that one,
when that truck comes down the road and hits Gage, sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie that's almost 40 years old.
or the remake.
Yeah, or the remake, which is also fantastic. Truck comes down the road, hits the kid. I'll never forget just that bloody, his tennis shoe kind of just slow motion rolling down the road. And then when he came back, Zombie Gage, I mean, that was one of those, that was one of those moments that really just stuck in my mind. I mean, I can still remember that kid with a little scalpel slicing Judd Nelson's Achilles tendon from under the bed. I mean, it still makes me cringe just thinking about it.
And I'm sure we'll get into talks about like what you can handle in a horror movie and what you can't. Achilles slices, absolutely cannot handle them.
Achilles!
There's that one. The one in Hostel, that one gets me a ton because that that
Yep.
is that one's just so cruel. I can just picture you trying to go to sleep, and and you can just hear, "Sometimes dead is better."
Well, sometimes that is better.
A lot of history up that route.
I live just across the road. You want to watch out for that road.
The ground's gone sour.
That's
Wild
awesome.
entry down that road.
Yeah, and the South Park version of that is also
Oh, this is
hysterical.
fantastic. Poor
But
Butters.
yeah, oh man, it's always poor Butters.
Wait a minute. You're supposed to poop in a toilet facing out? But I thought you sit on the toilet this way. So you have that nice little shelf for your comic book and your chocolate milk? Well, 'cause then you got the flusher right here. No? Oh, geez, that's embarrassing.
That's awesome. And I feel like a lot of people kind of have the same type of experience, maybe watching a movie when they weren't supposed to, because there is that thrill of it. And when
Oh
you're
yeah.
a kid, you always get into shit you're not supposed to. So mine is kind of along the same lines. I had a sleepover at, it was like a bunch of us on the elementary school basketball team were having a sleepover at my buddy's house. And, we must have been like third or fourth grade or something. And my buddy comes downstairs and he's like, "Hey guys, my mom and dad just went to bed and they just got the VHS of Scream." And I'm like,
Ooh.
"Well, that sounds awful." And so of course we're like, "Well, yeah, we're not supposed to watch that. Hell yeah, we're gonna watch it." And so like you remember the truck coming down? It's that first scene, and obviously I was a kid, so I had no idea what the importance of Drew Barrymore was or anything like that. I was just so tunnel vision on what is this guy going to say through the phone, because every word that's coming out of his mouth is about to make me shit my pants. And the line where she's like, why do you keep wanting to know my name? Again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Scream, but why do you want to keep knowing my name? Well, it's because I want to know who I'm looking at.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
And that the
Chills.
shiver that went down my spine on that. And then obviously, the gore on that first scene, and it was pretty toned down from what it was originally supposed to be. But
Hmm.
so that first scene happens. We're shaking our boots, and I shit you not, the phone in his house rings. Not 5 seconds after that opening credit. And so it took probably a half hour for everybody to calm down. And then, we finished the movie. And I remember, especially in Scream, because the last scene is, the sun rising
Hmm.
over the house, and there was all this carnage. And it kind of felt like, hey, like, that was an experience. I just survived that. And
Hmm.
it was something I wasn't supposed to do. And I'm sure my mom probably wasn't very happy about it, but and it was like, wow, this is insane. And then just to piggyback on that, I was spending a weekend with my dad, and I don't know how I talked him into it, but we would go to Blockbuster and rent a movie every Friday night, and somehow I got him to rent Scream 2. And
There it is.
I don't know why or how that happened, but I just remember sitting and I watched that one, by myself. And that was another surreal feeling, because it's the first time where it's these characters that you really, you fell in love with in the first movie. And it was my first true like sequel experience where it's like, wow, not all these guys are going to make it. And Randy, spoiler alert again, that one killed me. And so then from there, that love was, so Scream is one of my favorites just because of what I experienced as a kid. And a big thing about this show that I want to get into is when we talk about these films and where they rank against others, is that there really is no right or wrong answer unless you disagree with me. But that what I'm getting at with that is, you could be going through something in your life, or you could, a movie could have distracted you that everybody else hated. It really doesn't matter. I just want to know why you connected with that movie. A perfect example for me is Halloween Resurrection. That movie is horrible. Watching it now, it's like, dang, but I have such a deep personal connection with that movie because that was the first one that, the first rated R movie my brother and I snuck into. And there's the cheap jump scare at the end where Michael Myers opens his eyes, and it was kind of like you with Pet Cemetery. We could not sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his eyes opening. And, so I always look back on that one with fond memories, even though it is a horrible movie. It's, you got Busta Rhymes in there. It's just, it is the most whacked out movie, and even Jamie Lee Curtis hated it. So
They were really throwing everything at the wall for that one,
they really were. And
seeing what was going to stick.
and it started out so good. They carried on right from H2O, which, and obviously, I don't even know if I had seen H2O yet. And then I go back and watch it. I'm like, wow. So he was decapitated, and they still found a way to bring him back. That's interesting.
They
Um,
really get to a point where they're just jumping the shark to make another film.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, just getting into this first inaugural episode. Normally, what we're going to do
Well, and I
is,
want to say two things, Ryan, before we move
yeah,
forward.
go
Just
for it.
just as a quick shout out, and I'm sure you're going to relate to this too. I don't think you and I have ever talked about this piece, but going back to just our origins of loving, horror films, particularly, but loving horror in and of itself. I mean, I've got to give a throwback to the Goosebumps books. I was addicted to those books as a kid, and I think that fed right into my love of it now.
I'm gonna one up you on that one. So I love Goosebumps as well. Like, those were insane. And I remember like the braised covers that,
Yep,
you
yep.
could feel the
You could feel
goosebumps
the
on the Goosebumps.
goosebumps on the
Hmm.
title. Yep.
The the one that I relate to is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and those.
Oh my gosh, we could do a whole episode on this, and I'm sure we will on time.
Oh yeah, and just the illustrations. Just,
Oh,
I don't
I'm
know
thinking of them right now.
how.
It's making me
Yeah,
shiver.
I don't know how our parents let us, pick those out at the book fair, but they were there.
you know, uh, I won't stick on this too long. I know we want to get into the meat and potatoes here, but half of me thinks that our parents were just they didn't understand that was in our school library. So had they known that we were picking that up and looking at those pictures and reading those stories, they might have had a little something more to say.
Dude, I went to a
Blissfully ignorant, I'm sure.
I went to a Catholic school, and they had it in there, and there's some. I'm pretty sure there's some sacrilegious themes in those stories.
Oh
I'd
yeah.
have to go
Oh yeah.
back, but yeah, it's just so funny because yeah, and then like the Goosebumps, they had the TV show, and I remember watching
Mhm.
that, and it was a weekly thing, and it was really crazy when some of those would be a two-parter. I think like the Haunted Mask was a two-parter, and I
Yeah,
loved
Fox
that.
Kids, man.
Hmm. Absolutely. And then the intro with the shadow G going over everything, and
I
the
still
dog
remember
with
the
the demon
song.
eyes.
Dun 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
All this to say, we've come full circle with our love of horror, and I'm so happy to be doing this podcast with you finally.
Me too, brother. It's going to be, and I hope we can turn more people on to horror movies. I know
Mhm.
we have the same group of friends, and one of our friends, he was texting me the other day, and he's like, I'll listen to it, but I don't really watch horror. And I'm like, well, hopefully after you listen, you'll watch something. But yeah, with how this show is going to go for the most part, we're going to do new releases, and they're going to go head to head, straight up. And again, there's no formula as to why one will beat out the other. It's just, why did you like it? Or which one did you like more and why? And, defend it. We're not going to ridicule too much, probably a little bit, but um, that's what it's going to be. And each week, a new release will go up against the previous week's champ. This time, since it is the first horror movie, the podcast that we've done, and we're releasing this on Halloween. We're going to do, I think the list I have is the 15 movies that we thought of that we thought were some of the best of this year. And as Chris alluded to earlier, is that it is truly a renaissance. I was going through some of these titles, and it, it's like, wow, we really, like, this was a huge year in horror. And I say year meaning last Halloween to this Halloween. That's kind of how our calendar is going to go. We're going to do specialty episodes where we're going to go through different series, different it really, anything is on the table. We've talked about doing a gore fest episode, like which one has the most body horror, which movies, like we talked about what PG-13 horror movies are the best and the scariest, because there are some out there that are crazy. There's a ton of topics that we're going to hit, and if anyone has any suggestions of movies that we haven't talked about, we're always looking for new stuff to watch.
Mhm.
And like you mentioned, the Shutter app. There's also Screambox. There's so many apps out there now that have some of these um, hidden gems. There's some that are absolutely horrible, and you will waste your time on them. But
Mhm.
you kind of have to do that to find the good ones. And they're not all theatrical releases, even though that's what this show is going to be based around. But that's why Chris has had some great ideas with the bonus episodes, and I hope you guys all listen to it. So the way this one's going to work is we have our movies listed, and we're just going to spin a wheel randomly and talk about them one on one. We're going to figure out which one each of us likes, and then we're going to move on to the next one and see which movie comes out on top. Now, we might not have the same favorite. That is fine. And I honestly hope we don't have the same favorite. Um, if some weeks come by and we do, then hey, then we got an undisputed champ. It's our show. We can do whatever we want. We might throw in some rematches on there. We are happy to do anything. Chris, you have anything to add?
Killed it, man. Put everything on there that we want to do. We hope you guys enjoy the podcast. We hope you enjoy the content. Send any recommendations our way. We'd love to chat about them. But we're hoping to jump in tonight and just hook you.
All right, you ready to do this?
Let's do it, buddy.
Okay, let me get my spinny wheel up. All right. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. It's so dramatic. I know you can't see it, but
We'll put some dramatic music in right here to kind of kick it off, or maybe some spinny wheel sounds.
ooh. All right. First one, Sinners.
You couldn't have started off better, man. I love that you
Well,
picked this and landed on Sinners first. Let's go.
we got to see what it goes up against,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can get up into it. So, all right, what's Sinners going up against? Let's see. It's like in the middle. Okay. You're going to have a toughie on this one because it's Until Dawn.
Brother. We
Mm-hmm.
got two top tiers in my opinion right here, man.
I think one might be a little more above the other, but we'll get into it. So we're going to do just like a brief review and kind of what we liked and what we didn't on each one. When we get into these movies where we're just talking about one or two a week, and we'll probably go into a more spoiler filled one. We're going to try to avoid spoilers here, but no guarantees. So just earmuffs, I guess. But
Yep.
uh, I feel like since it landed first, I feel like we have to talk Sinners.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm going to start off by saying, what a fantastic piece by Ryan Coogler. I thought it was a great performance by Michael B. Jordan playing the brothers, both Smoke and Stack.
Is this here smoke or is this stack?
I thought the entire premise of this film was, number one, it was unique. We don't see a lot of, I should say, we don't see a ton of like hoodoo Southern stuff anymore. And I don't know if that's because of the current climate. People want to be extra sensitive, but this one was, two brothers going back home, purchase a sawmill. They want to start a juke joint, and they are, lo and behold, there are some things going around that are turning some people into some vampires, and they gotta kind of go up against, and that's the basic premise.
And like the one word you can use on this is unique. That's exactly what it is. It's a period piece.
Mm-hmm.
And the sets, the costumes, I mean, it does truly transport you there. It's and maybe you're right about the climate of things right now, but man, like, yeah, you have Michael B. Jordan, he's always fantastic, but I mean, when you ask anyone to play a set of twins,
Is this here smoke or is this stack?
it, it it's there's not really a middle ground. It's either going to be great or it's going to be horrible, and
Yeah.
I feel like those characters were just different enough to really stand out, and probably from any other movie that we have on this list, I don't just music wise, this movie will take
Oh,
the cake 1,000 times over.
I mean, without a doubt, I believe Ludwig Göransson did the soundtrack for this film, and I mean, you want to talk about just nailing the 1932. I think it's Clarksdale, Mississippi. Obviously post World War II, two brothers coming from Chicago, moving back down to the South. I mean, you couldn't have hit it better on the head. I mean, he really, really got that right.
Well, and funny story about like the soundtrack and just kind of the vibe of the movie, because they do lean heavily on the soundtrack and the music that is in the movie. I mean, even literally before getting on this podcast tonight and recording, I was listening to what is it, like "Take Me Down to Dublin," that
Mm-hmm.
song that's in there. And I love it. But so funny story, when I went to go see this, I think the scene, it was probably what 30-45 minutes into the movie, they are and this isn't really a spoiler, just maybe it happened to somebody else, but so they're setting up, they're almost ready to start the evening. They have they have their security set up, they have everything ready to go, and they start playing music. And I took that time. It was I went to the restroom. It was probably no more than a minute. It was nothing. I really wanted to get back in there, and it's a long movie, but it doesn't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
And you so I walk back in, and you're going to know the scene I'm talking about, because I go back in, and they're having the big party, but I'm like, why are there modern day rappers in this movie? Is Which is funny, because so I was like, what the fuck? What is going on? what did I miss? Did somebody take drugs, and this is what they're seeing? But and then obviously you slowly get back into it, and you're like, okay, that. And I thought that was a really cool scene about how they, it was the past, present, and future generations and cultures coming together just to dance around music. And it truly does go around hey, music is a universal language. It doesn't matter what you listen to, everybody can like anything. And that's what really stuck out in this movie. And if you again, not entirely a spoiler, but if you like seeing Klan people get fucked up, yeah, that's a bonus there. But yes,
You can't go
and
wrong.
the, no, and the vampire genre, it's not my favorite. I really, I'm not crazy about it, but
Mm-hmm.
it didn't really feel like I was watching a vampire flick. And what I liked about it is that I didn't really see, aside from the Klansman, I didn't really see any true bad people. Even the antagonists that are turning people, like they still have a thing. You're like, well, you kind of make sense right there. Hey,
Mhm.
yeah, you can just live forever. Doesn't sound too bad. And it just the performances are great, and you care about these characters, and when they turn, and they go on the vampire tropes too, of like you have to invite them in, and I think there's even a scene where they're like, all right, everybody eat garlic.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And then I think one of the characters, I won't say who again, spoiler alert, but when she threw I think it was the garlic pickle juice in his face,
mhm.
to repel him. I mean, Kugler did a great job of leaning in on um, obviously the present, the themes of the time, right? When it primarily takes place in 1932, but like you said, jumping around to different time periods to kind of explain, the continuity of the story that he's trying to tell. And hats off to him for the way that he wove it all together. I mean, I really thought Sinners was top tier horror.
Me too. And it's, because, and again, with this podcast, when we see a movie, at least for me, I'm going to try and go in as blind as I can. I'm not going to try to look up other reviews or, obviously I'll watch a trailer, but I'm really going to try hard not to have anything else influence my opinion. This was one where my expectations were sky high because I had seen so many reviews saying how revolutionary it was, this and that. So it had every chance to let me down. And it is really hard to think of an aspect of it that I didn't enjoy. And I think maybe just the length, just because it is hard for some people to sit down and be like, hey, I really want you to watch this movie, but I hope you can dedicate close to 3 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Fun fact: I had no idea this was a horror film until I went and saw it. I really didn't. I thought
you're
it
just
was
like,
an early a Prohibition era, black club owner in the Deep South film, and them dealing with outside influences trying to take down their business, and then pretty early on in the film you kind of find out, oh, this is going a different way, and I was all for
that
it.
that would have been a trip. That may have been more of a trip than me coming back and seeing the whole period piece get shot out of the water and see modern day rappers in there. But that's awesome. So we do have to go say who it's going up against, and it's I think I know which way this is going. So I apologize to you because I know your love for this next one. But Until Dawn, and as someone who never played the video games, uh, I will just say that as just a standalone horror movie that I had no idea what the video games were about. I thought it was just a fun ride, and it was just it was entertaining. They had some pretty awesome kills. I mean, there's one where they're drinking the water, and it's insane. And you can go into a little bit about the video game and how it differs from that, but I think maybe if it's going up against maybe half of this list instead of Sinners, this might go a little different. But I'll let you take it from here with you're going to be more well informed on Until Dawn.
Well, I mean, I can't disagree with your appraisal there. I mean, Sinners would be hard for any of these films to go up against and come out on top. So we may be foreshadowing our rating there, and we might be agreeing on the first one, but that's not to take anything away from Until Dawn. I played the game. The game came out on the PlayStation 4. It must have been, gosh, about 10 years ago now, maybe even more. It was one of the first ones. But the premise of the film and the game differs. I don't want to say completely, but long story, I guess to compress it as much as I can, the video game, you embody the roles of all the characters, and it's not a game in the way that you think it's a game, and that you start out as a level 1 character, and as you go through, you get new weapons, and you level up, and you get powerful. That's not what the game is at all. The game is essentially it's a story. It's telling a story, and the choices that you make affect the way the story goes. Your characters can die, they can live, all based on the decisions that you make. It's almost like an interactive choose your own adventure kind of thing. Whereas the film kind of took a different route. There are a lot of themes that are similar, but the film kind of goes more along the lines of, if any of the main characters do die, they basically start the night over. So think of it as like every time someone dies, the clock rewinds. So you have to try to do it again, right? Which is in itself a very interesting premise, and kind of like you said, a lot of fun kills in this one. You could tell that we're really leaning towards a crowd that's in their late teens, early 20s. It's not as appealing, I think, to those of us who are a little older and a little more schooled in the horror anthology films, as you could say, but still a fun ride. Like I said, fun kills. I thought the premise was great. I thought the performances were good. Peter Stormare, who also plays a psychiatrist in the video game, always turns in a great performance. He's a very creepy psychiatrist in this one that can kind of send chills down your spine. But I really enjoyed the premise. Like I said, I thought it was a fun trip. I thought, anytime you use an underused monster, i.e., the Wendigo, that they used in this one, it can put a different swing on things, and I really appreciate that. Sinners, as great as it is, does fall into it's a vampire movie trope, right? If your vampire is not your thing and you don't really feel it, that might take away a little bit from your experience. This one throws a Wendigo at you, which I'm sure a lot of people aren't as familiar with. So it can be a little bit more hair raising in that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. And even the Wendigo, that's something that I didn't know about until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and just listening to horror story podcasts and seeing that come into the movie. I thought that was pretty cool too, to see that on screen. If I could describe it in one way, this movie's kind of like a horror buffet, because you get the slasher aspect, you get the paranormal aspect of it. Every time they wake up, it's a new horror movie, and I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, and you hit the demographic perfectly. It's one, like, if we were in high school, we probably, nothing beats Until Dawn, man. And
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so unless you have any reservations about killing off your baby here, I think Sinners with an early round knockout here, just because it is so hard to overcome.
I mean, a round one, Ali versus Liston, just knockout punch. It's just so well done. There's nothing that I could take away from it that would make me say, yeah, it kind of has a chance against Until Dawn. So the undisputed winner of this one has to be Sinners.
All right, Sinners moving on to face. Oh, it's hovering against two of them right now, and they're both going to be tough.
Give
Oh
us a
man,
challenge,
this
Ryan.
this
Give
wheel
us a
is
challenge.
this wheel is killing me right now. So if I were to tell you that it was a heavyweight championship bout, who do you think it's going up against?
You know, I am going to take a guess that it's going to go up against Final Destination Bloodlines.
Oh, that was one it was hovering against, but it's actually Weapons.
Oh, that was going to be my next guess.
Mm-hmm.
Josh
So,
Brolin, talk to me, buddy. I'm
oh,
going to let you kick this one off.
okay. So, oh boy. So, Weapons, they started off with this. Their marketing campaign was very interesting. Again, it was very, like, you didn't really know what was going on through the trailers. It was like, at 2:17 a.m., 17 children left their homes. We don't know where they went, and then it's Weapons. It's like, well, what does that title have to correlate with kids missing? And uh, if you're unfamiliar with the previous work here, it was Barbarian. And Barbarian, if you've never seen it, go in as blind as you possibly can,
Yeah,
because
props to Zach Kreger, the director.
dude, it is a trip. Like, I watched that on HBO Max. Like, I was like, okay, I keep hearing things about this, and in that one, I'm not even going to tell you anything about it, because I want everyone to go in blind. But it has some great performances, and he's a comedy guy, so there's a lot of comedy in these movies, and especially in Weapons. Like, again, it's not really a spoiler, but like, Josh Brolin's character has a nightmare, and he wakes up and he's just like, "What the fuck?"
What the fuck?
It's like, hey, that's
Mm-hmm.
what I would say in that situation. And the formula for this one is they take one character and they do a little segment on them. So uh, the first one is I wouldn't even say that there's a main character, but marketed as the main character is going to be Justine, and she's the teacher of the class. So you kind of go through her day and kind of what's happening on her end, and then they'll go to Josh Brolin's character, and it really kept me intrigued. And again, it's a very long movie. It's, the runtime is right up there with Sinners.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane, but it's another one where, and I don't know if it's because this formula was going on, but it's like, man, like, who are we going to see next? Like, they even throw in a random druggie that you see his POV,
Mm-hmm.
and it all ties together. And you can, if you're a horror vet, you probably kind of see where it's going after about halfway through, but uh, I think there's going to be an iconic horror villain from this for a long time, one that is really unsettling. And I don't want to give too much away on it because it's not something that I didn't expect there to be this like one single antagonist, but it's it's really interesting to see how that is taken. And something interesting about this is that the movie was written I believe from a dream, and
Mm-hmm.
that it was written kind of go with the flow. You know, a lot of writers, they sit down and, you know, I've written some screenplays, and you know, you try and lay it out beginning, middle, and end, and how do we get there. This one, he's like, this was my dream, kids go missing, and then he went from there, and it ended up being an absolute masterpiece. It was absolutely incredible. I really wish these two weren't going up again this early. So I'm going to think about my choice while you talk about it.
I mean, first off, again, props to Zach Kreger for the writing, the directing on this film. The film's presented in a non-linear narrative. So to kind of give you guys an idea, that means the chapters for various characters, like their perspectives, like you said, and their stories and how they intersect, it's presented differently. It's not just a linear film throughout the whole thing, and you know, one thing happening after the next. So it builds up. You know, the climax of this film, like you said, you can kind of see where things are going, but you know, with a premise like we have, where you know, it it subverts your expectations, right? And by the way, can we just start with how scary of a premise it is? I mean, last night at 2:17 a.m., every child from this class got out of bed, went downstairs, opened the door, and walked into the dark, and they never came back. Like, how scary is that? Just to start something off. Where'd they go? Why'd they go? You know, all those things that are kind of running through your head. Those ideas and those themes, they do play with that throughout the film. Um, Josh Brolin, of course, playing the father of one of the children. I believe Julia Garner was the teacher. Naturally, she's the first suspect, right? I mean, her class is missing, so she's kind of the first person to think about. And, you know, she obviously goes paranoid, and she relapses into alcoholism. And, I mean, this film just, you know, you're sitting with this sense of impending dread the entire time. And like I said, it's building towards a climax that I don't want to give away. You know, that's one spoiler I won't say in case you guys haven't seen it, because it is rather new. Um, but there's so many different things at play, and the way they all do work together. That's something that sticks out for me in a horror film, or in any film, really. When this many ideas can kind of come together, and you know, you look back on it when you're done, and all these little pieces start to make sense. But just a terrifying scenario, just a terrifying thing, and a fantastic climax that is worth a rewatch to kind of see all the little Easter eggs and things that we're hiding throughout.
Well, and the casting was great. And every single one of these characters, they're flawed. Every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not so flawed where you want something bad to happen. Like there's one. It's not really a spoiler, but one of the characters, he's a cop, and you know, he's detaining a suspect, and you know, if you've ever watched live PD, you know, when they're doing the pat down, it's like, all right, do you have anything sharp that's going to stick me? And you know, he ends up getting stuck, and then he knocks out this guy right in front of his dash cam. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, well, like he shouldn't have done that, but like, I mean, I get it to an extent. So he's flawed. Josh Brolin, even, who was presented in the trailers and even throughout the movie as, you know, he is
The
this awesome.
protagonist,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. He is this awesome dad, and he is going to do whatever it takes to find his son. I mean, it turns out, again, it's not a super spoiler, but like he he was a neglectful dad,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot of his guilt that is going into this search. And you know, it's kind of funny because it turns out that his son was kind of a shithead.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that I
So
love about this too, this is another piece of the film that this in any film, right, that forces us to. You look at the premise and you automatically have your mind made up that something bad happened, and these are our heroes that are going to go save the day, right? And then in the next 2.5 hours, you realize exactly what you said. It's like, well, people aren't necessarily as good as you think they are, just based on what's going on in the, you know, when you meet them. So any film that forces you to look at people in that aspect, and even look at ourselves in that aspect too. really put some eye opening things into perspective, and those are those thought processes that I love. That makes me think about things and people a different way.
Well, and yeah, especially with the nonlinear format. I mean, you see things in, Justine's story, and then when it gets to Paul's story, it's something that you're like, oh yeah, I forgot we already saw that, but now I'm seeing it from his perspective, and then what kind of led up to his decisions that day, and that's all just in addition to, in the back of your mind, like you said, that feeling of dread, like, well, we still don't know what happened to these kids. No
Mm-hmm.
one has been able to find them. There's like one or two plot holes that I wasn't crazy about, but overall, I mean, it's really hard, especially when you're as desensitized as we are to horror movies, because it's really got to go above and beyond, and it just sucks that we got two, and they're completely different movies. Sinners and Weapons are completely different, and this sucks.
I'll just say, oh Gladys,
Oh,
oh
Gladys.
Gladys.
And and I think if there's a gun to my head and I have to make a decision, I gotta go Weapons to move on.
Oh, buddy, that's where I got to disagree with you. As much as I love
Okay,
it, I
good.
still think Sinners has the knockout punch, and this fight would go 10 rounds. By the way.
Oh, dude, it would be a split decision. Absolutely. There'd probably be some controversy with it. So, but this is good because now we each have our own front runner.
Well, let me
So,
ask you something too. Let me ask you something on that note. You, as a father of two small children, does that influence your decision based on the premise of the film?
oh, absolutely. It does. And I mean, Sinners has that a little bit to an extent. There is I'm not going to say he's a child, but he's also not an adult. That you're worried about what's going to happen to him throughout the course. But yeah, I mean, it's 17 kids. My kids are in school. Like, yeah, that absolutely influenced me. And that's another part of this. Kind of what I alluded to in the intro. That like, hey, it doesn't matter why you liked a movie. I just want to hear why and why that beats the other one. So that's probably a really good reason why um, it's taken the cake for me. But with us disagreeing, that means Sinner stays alive. So I'm actually really happy that you disagree. Because now we get a branch debate here. So if you're ready to move on to the next one,
Absolutely. Spin the wheel, bud.
spin that wheel.
Spin that wheel!
All right, this one's going to be a little tough too. Another unique one. Definitely not as action packed as the ones that we were just discussing. Heretic with Hugh Grant.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good choice.
I did switch up the list a little bit on you. I didn't tell you though.
Hey, I like a surprise now and then.
Yeah, I ended up taking out a couple of direct sequels because I didn't think that was fair to do that. We will have our own episodes on sequels and franchises and all that. But so if you want to start this one, I think I took the last one on Heretic here.
Another. I keep talking about the premise of these films. I guess that's the best way to go into it. But you know, uh, I'm not going to pass opinion or give any judgments on people knocking on my door to proselytize. I have my own beliefs and faith, but you know, two young missionaries from a specific faith knock on a man's door, and I think they got a little bit more than they were expecting. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong, and um, but the way this movie does it is that it's very slow moving. So
Oh, it's a
um,
slow burn. But the best thing about it too is the feeling of unease that just kind of creeps in on you as the movie continues to go is something that I do appreciate. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of films that they start with a bang. Am I right? If you think of like a slasher film or even a monster film, someone dies, they kind of throw you right in. This is much more of a slow burn. You're really starting to get an idea. Okay, these people are just starting off talking. They didn't feel comfortable going inside, but they went inside anyway, assuring because he assured them that his wife happens to be in there. Hint, hint, hint. Um, uh, and by golly, he has a lot to say about what they're there to talk about. And a fantastic, if I may say, performance by Hugh Grant.
yeah, and when I saw he was the lead, I'm like, Okay, and clearly from the trailer, you can tell, like, there's something off with this guy. Is Hugh Grant really going to play a bad guy in a horror movie? I just don't see it. And then you watch it, and you're like, yeah, okay, because like this movie is 97% dialogue. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is, and it is expertly written. It is, and I'll even tell you, like, yeah, with this show, like, we're not going to care what religion you are, what
Mm-hmm.
politics you like, what race you are, what sexual orientation, anything like that. Anyone's welcome, but we do have
Yeah.
to talk about it if it's within the movie. So, I personally, like, I grew up in the Catholic Church, and I don't even know if you know that about me, but like I was an altar boy and did all the things. So um, I feel like I've become much more open since then. But watching this and just seeing how he calmly disarms them
Mm-hmm.
and gets into this debate, and it starts off innocent enough, like, hey, I just want to hear about what you have to say, and then he brings out some analogies in there and some arguments that it's like, wow. And then some at a couple points, the two protagonists, they clap back at him with some other interesting ideas, and it's a movie that really just gets you thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like, they move from one room to another, and this house, it looks like a normal house. Absolutely. It's
I
it's
was I was just
sorry.
about to say they really start they really start in that, and then by about three quarters through this film, it turns into something completely different,
Yeah,
if I can
it's
say.
oh yeah, no, you can say. And there's a couple turns in this movie where they you think it's going to go one way, and you're like, at least for me personally, I'm like, really, like, all this build up and it's going to be that, and then they turn it around. Like, I truly can say, I don't think anyone going into this one truly knows how it's going to end.
Hmm.
And even the ending, it leaves, I'm not going to say it's completely ambiguous, but it leaves a lot up to debate, because of prior conversations in the movie and just the general themes. And I do think they did it in a respectful enough way. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a hardcore religious or anything, but it's not like, I was sitting there taking offense to anything that was said. And even the two characters, they even play up. I believe it's the first conversation of the movie. They're talking about the South Park musical. They're talking about how their faith is perceived in the media, and even one of them is like, I thought it was pretty funny. So they are aware, at least one of the characters is aware of kind of what the perception is for their what they're doing, and the other one is, she's just adorable. She's so naive on so many things, and it is really fun to see her kind of grow up in the sense of this one night, because she has to, and she has to question her beliefs. And again, it's really hard not to give anything away in this movie, because just if you want one on a rainy night, if we want a horror movie, just, hey, turn on, listen to Hugh Grant talk. He could talk me to sleep any night.
He's got
he
one of those voices, especially as he's gotten older.
he does, and he's just the dad next door vibes.
Hmm.
He says a couple things that just seem like they fly over the radar, and then they come back, and you're like, wow, they probably should have been paying. And at the same time, you're watching this, and you're just like, leave the house, you
Yeah, yeah.
morons.
And there's something deeper in it for me too. You and I haven't had almost many conversations about faith, but myself as a man of faith, I'm a deeply faithful Protestant man. There's a very interesting dynamic going on here in how Mr. Reed, who is Hugh Grant, how he portrays kind of his views and kind of, as we learn as the movie goes on, his behavior. And I conclude it's really consistent with something that Fyodor Dostoevsky claimed. He said in I think it was Crime and Punishment. It might have been in Demons, but he made the statement. He said, "Without God," and he was a man of deep faith as well. He said, "It is apparent in man that without God, all things are permitted. He's not saying that they're right. He's not saying, which obviously they're not, as we see with Mr. Reed's behavior. But that's kind of the premise of it, right? That Mr. Reed, this man who thinks he's thought his way out of faith and thinks he's smarter than those who came before, has figured out a new, a new system and the real truth. And that kind of behavior and that kind of dictum has led to kind of the things that we see him portray in the film, which, in my opinion, are pretty sick.
Well, and he, I mean, not to take away from that serious topic, but he does throw a Jar Jar joke in there, which is, that gets
Which
some extra
obviously
points.
touches me very deeply as a Star Wars fan, and you as well, I'm sure.
And he does the worst impression of all time, but it's,
Can you imagine thousands of years from now people accepting Jar Jar as a significant religious figure?
Beg your pardon?
Jar Jar. Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar. Excuse me.
It's so funny just the way it comes about. But I think as much as, this was, and again, I think pretty much every movie on this list I think you should go and watch it. In what order you want to do, that is totally up to you. This one I also recommend, but it ain't beating Sinners or Weapons.
No, definitely not. Sinners is undisputed to me at this point.
Well, and I'm the same with Weapons. If it got past Sinners, but we got to go through the list and we gotta figure this out. Again, why did this wheel do that? We should do more takes on this.
I love it so much. And I could, by the way, I could spend a whole episode talking about Weapons or not Weapons, Heretic and the themes within. So glad
absolutely.
you put that one on there.
It's and I thought about it the other day, and I'm just like, I think in my mind, I'm like, oh, it came out before Halloween last year, but it actually came out in November. So, all right, this one is a really dumb one that's on the list, but I had fun with it. Death of a Unicorn.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little oddball. Probably not going to make a high ranking on this list, but
I mean, put Paul Rudd in anything, and I'm going to appreciate it.
Like I had the internal debate like a week ago, and I'm like, because he's doing that Anaconda remake with Jack Black.
Yes, he is.
And I'm like, can we somehow get that on the show? I don't know if it's going to be classified as horror, but and again, like, it's one of those where you see the title and you're like, all right, that's going to be stupid. Why are they remaking Anaconda? And then you watch the trailer and you're like, all right, this has like Tropic Thunder vibes right now. And I kind of like it. So with Death of a Unicorn, it's Paul Rudd. It's God, why am I blanking on her name? It's Wednesday.
Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega, that's right. It's Jenna Ortega, who I loved her in the newer Scream movies. I thought she was
great.
Yeah, and there's some turmoil there between going into Scream 7, but I thought Scream 5, or I guess it was just called Scream, but the new Scream and then Scream 6, her character is awesome in that, and her in this, it's so stupid, but there's some good jokes, there's some good gore. If you want to turn your brain off for an hour and a half and watch Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, try to conceal the body of a dead unicorn, in today's world, that's essentially what it is. There's some really good comedic performances in it. I'll let you speak on it a little bit, but I don't think it's going to warrant too much of our time.
Definitely not. I mean, I will say this: I've never seen a film where someone snorts a vial of grated unicorn horn. But I think that's a pretty good. That's a pretty good snapshot. Yeah, right. Spoiler alert. That's a pretty good snapshot. Wait till you see what they do to the rest of the unicorn. Spoiler alert. Does it live? I don't know. What's the title of the film? But snorting a shredded unicorn, a grated unicorn horn, kind of sets the tone for everything this film is about. And it's exactly like you said. If you want to shut your brain off for an hour and a half, I highly recommend. I mean, it's a good fun time, especially you don't see a lot of films where a unicorn is going to disembowel somebody. So there's that.
Well, I mean, I think that happened in Cabin in the Woods, did it not?
I think you know what? That's a very good point. Well done.
That's another one I could do a whole episode on, is Cabin in the Woods. All right, moving on. Sorry, Death of a Unicorn. You came up against some heavy hitters.
Yep,
maybe
some
you would have
prime
lasted a round or two, but that's also
time heavyweights.
probably right. That's probably the least horror movie on this list.
It's more
Um,
common. I'd almost say it's more comedy, but it's a very
yeah,
bloody
it
kind of
is.
comedy.
Right, and maybe if you love unicorns, you might get freaked out by it. But if you're new to horror, that's a good one to start with. Let's see, what do we got here? Okay, another one that's somewhat recently released. Um, it's Good Boy. I'll let you take the
Oh
lead on
man.
this one.
So, where do I even start with this one? Well, let's start with this one. Just so you guys know, if you know nothing about Good Boy, it's about a dog.
He's a dog.
He's totally a dog.
What, you saw him hitting on someone?
No, I didn't say he a dog. I said he's a dog.
Really cute dog. Okay, let's start with that. And I think the dog actually takes front and center on the movie poster, which is great. So, you know, anytime you take a film called Good Boy and you put a dog on the poster, right? I think you're kind of leaning towards one direction and the kind of people that you want to see. But suffice to say, you know, I think the main character Todd, goes to New York City. He's going to his grandfather's funeral. There's woods around, obviously, because he's kind of going upstate a little bit. The woods around the city. Kind of takes his dog out and about, and kind of starts to believe that the house that he's living in might be a little bit haunted, and may or may not have contributed to his grandfather's death. So the premise of the film kind of takes you through that as Todd kind of increasingly experiences strange things that are happening around the house. His health is getting worse. Obviously, like I said, he kind of has a chronic condition that he's dealing with. And the longer he stays in the house, the more aggressive he's starting to become. It's happy with the climax, and the reason I say that is because you kind of get an idea from the beginning where things are going and how Todd is going to end up based on what you do find out in the beginning of the film. But going back to the dog and how the dog kind of plays into it, I can kind of appreciate they use the dog as a character in this way. And the reason I say that is because a lot of movies that have dogs as prominent characters, right, i.e., Marley and Me or Air Bud or something, it's always in a happy, jovial way. And not to say that there's nothing happy or jovial about having the dog as one of the main characters here, but seeing the dogs play a role the way that Indy did in this film, I was all for that.
Yeah, and it's just so funny because it is so simplistic. It's it's marketed as it is a horror movie from the perspective of Indy, of this dog.
Yeah, dog.
And there are movies that have taken a shot recently, and I love the fact that movies are starting to get more creative. It doesn't always hit sometimes. I'm thinking of In a Violent Nature. If you guys don't know that one, it was on Shudder. I think it's still there.
It
But
is from the perspective of the killer. How wonderful is that?
exactly, which and on paper that looks awesome. When you watch the movie, and this movie has some all-time kills. There's one specifically that is just uh, unbelievable. I don't know how they did it. It's so gross, but it's basically like a watered down Jason. If you're watching Jason walk through a movie, and they do some cool things where as he's walking up to a campsite, you get some exposition. You hear the kids talking, but it is hey, it is this guy that rose from the dead that's out for revenge, but 90% of his time he's just walking. And it's pretty realistic because that's what probably would happen, but it doesn't mean it always hits. I enjoyed the movie, but I know why people don't. There's also another one, and it's called The Presence, and it's from the point of view of the ghost that's in the house. And it's the same type of deal, probably a little more fast moving than In a Violent Nature. But this one, again, you kind of can tell where it's going. There's some okay scares in it, but this one failed. Its marketing failed it because it was billed as the scariest movie I've ever seen, and I hate when movies do that because
You're setting yourself up for failure.
You absolutely are, because you are getting the people, you are getting the hardcore horror fans. You're not getting the new horror fans. Maybe you'll get a few, but you're not getting that. And that's what this one did. And I just remember, like, really? That's it? So this one, with Good Boy is in the same vein of it, but if you've ever had a pet, if you've ever had a dog specifically, like this one pulls on the heartstrings because
You know, I was just gonna say. I'm sorry, I cut you off. I'm gonna let you
no, you're
finish. I
good, you're good.
apologize. But I was just gonna say the last. I'd say the last 15, 20 minutes of this film are exactly that. I mean, you want to talk about just if you've ever had a pet, right? You've ever had a pet that's been close to you that you love. I mean, this one really gets you. And to have that done in a horror film the way that they did to me was just it was a really good brushstroke.
Yeah, and the the effects aren't great. It's a very low budget movie, so that's my only real knock on it. But like from the dog, like you'll watch a horror movie and you're like, oh, you dumb idiot, don't go in there, blah blah blah. And this one, you feel so helpless because the dog, you can tell it's the dog knows something's wrong,
Yeah,
and
it's aware.
the the dog can't do anything to help. He does as much as he possibly can. And what I loved about this is that you mentioned the poster and how the dog was mostly prevalent on the poster, but even throughout the movie, if you're watching it, the main Todd, he's wearing a hoodie.
Mhm.
He's talking from a shadow. You never really see his face until the very end, and I thought that was awesome because it truly throws the dog as the main character. And there's some background dialogue, and you really start caring about Todd too, not because you care about Todd the person, but you care about, I don't want Indy to lose his owner over something that
Yeah.
he cannot control. And yeah, there's some good jump scares in this one. There's some you know a lot of dread. And what I really liked about it, and I don't know if you had this experience too, but when I saw it, they did a behind the scenes thing after the movie ended, because it's such
Mhm.
a emotional ending. You just you needed a break, and I hate when movies do this, but this time I made an exception. I love that they did it. They made it. They were, because the whole movie you're watching, you're like, man, how did this dog do this? Because this dog
Yeah.
must be expertly trained. Like, I don't know how this, because this dog is so serious and it conveys so much emotion through its eyes. And the director who actually played Todd, he and his wife, and this is his actual dog, they made the movie together. I think it over a course of like 4 years or something. And they they take you behind the scenes on like how they got the dog to do some of the stuff. And one of the scenes they hone in on is one of the scariest scenes in the movie, where the dog is growling and staring at the window, I believe. And it's like, it took us forever to get this shot. Like, we had to bait him with treats, and they do the little behind the scenes, and you're like, oh, that wasn't scary at all. But it really did drive home the fact of like, wow, it lifted the curtain. Like, they didn't have to do that. You could just wonder why.
Mhm.
But as as someone who respects filmmakers and the work that they do, and if you've never been around a movie, you have no idea how much it, like, I worked on a 10-minute movie for Doritos once, and it was insane how much work that 10-minute movie took. The fact that
Mhm.
they were able to do this with this dog for years and years and years, and never knowing if they're going to get the best shot, it was a testament to that. And
And can I?
again, oh, go for it, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing here. Where however this falls, there's a really great scene in this film. I mean, we were talking about tugging at your heartstrings. It's the I mean, it's the last 5 minutes of the film. It's the last interaction, I should say, between Todd and Indy, and what Indy's trying to do. Um, with regards to Todd, who was I guess I'll just say he's in a troubling situation. Um, up to the end, this dog is trying to do right by his owner, and I'll never forget that one. That one really stuck by me. I mean,
Well,
I'm thinking
and
of it now, and I'm just like, oh man,
oh,
that's sad.
dude, yeah. And just the lengths that Indy goes to try and help Todd, because I mean, it's, I'm not going to ruin it, but
I went home and just snuggled both of my cats the rest of the night.
and that's the thing. It really changes your perspective. And even it, like, if you're a pet owner, you love your pet, obviously.
Yeah.
You love them, you hug on them. I did the same thing. I'm like, I got to go home and truly appreciate, or like, if I ever get possessed, please, please help me like Indy did. And so it's, again, yeah, and, you bring up Marley and Me, because that one was released on Christmas Day, and it was marketed as a comedy, which
Oh my
there are some
gosh, you
funny
want to talk
parts,
about ruining ruining
dude.
some
Yeah,
Christmas?
it's like that's a fear of a whole different level there. Yeah. So Good boy. You are a good boy, but you do have to go to the kennel here. You're going to be above the last few that we talked about, like Bone Lake and Death of a Unicorn. But I don't know if you're getting above Heretic. It's between that and Heretic, or they're right above there for me, in the tiers. But it's not touching weapons. It's not touching sinners. But definitely check it out, for sure. It's an experience, and it
Agreed.
blows out the other perspective horror movies out of the water, like In a Violent Nature and Presence, just because of that personal touch with it.
Agreed. Agreed. 100%. I'm right there with you. It just can't take Sinners down. That's more of a testament to how good Sinners is than any shortcomings that Good Boy has.
Well, and speaking of how good Sinners is and how good Weapons is, we got a dark horse coming up, and that is Final Destination Bloodlines.
Woo!
Now I did say that I was taking out sequels, and I said fuck that with this one because this one stands so good on its own. So uh, I'm sure everyone knows what Final Destination is, and if you don't, it's a long-standing horror series with one of the most unique premises. You have so many of these franchises that have the one killer, or a demon trying to possess somebody. This is a killer that you cannot see. It is death is coming at you because you survived something that you weren't supposed to. And a staple on these movies is the opening scene. There is a disaster. The first movie, it's a plane crash. Second movie, it's a car crash on the highway with the log truck. The third one, it's a roller coaster. Fourth one is NASCAR. The fifth one is what a what
it
is it?
was
It's
the
a
it was the shopping mall.
well, isn't that at the end though? The shopping mall,
Oh, that
because
is at
was
the end. You're right. Everything's
it?
going bad. It's the movie
Yeah,
theater.
that one's also. I think the movie theater's in the shopping
Oh, that's
mall.
part of it, huh? There's so
Yeah.
many of them. I can't keep them straight.
So but I think the first one is the bridge collapse. Yeah,
The
the
very
first scene
first
though.
one, the very first one was the plane crash. Yeah, and the second one was the highway issue.
Yeah. So
Yep.
in these movies, they've always been super fun, because they always try to one up themselves on how they're going to kill somebody and misdirect you. So once you become a little bit more seasoned on this franchise, you look for things. You look for, okay, well, that moved right there, so that's going to be what kills them, and it's something completely different out in left field. This movie, it was, I believe, 10 years or so since the last one. And
Yeah,
the
it's been a
last
minute.
the last one was Final Destination 5, and it's been out for 10 years, so I will do a spoiler on this one. But I actually really liked that one, mainly because it ended up being a secret prequel. It
Hmm.
the very last scene of it is, the two
Leads
main
into the
characters,
first film. Yep.
they're getting on the plane that the main characters in the first film get off of, and it was cool to have that full circle. So then you hear that they're announcing bloodlines, and you're like, okay, this is clearly another cash grab. They still have this IP. They still want to do something with it. And even seeing the first trailer for it, like, I thought it looked good, but I thought, like, really, you're going to start with a Space Needle type collapse. I
Right.
think there's better ideas out there. Um, I could not have been more wrong. This opening scene, and I think you and I both agree that the number one opening scene in a Final Destination movie is from Final Destination 2 with the log
Absolutely.
truck, and
Absolutely.
that has scared our entire generation.
It is burned into the psyche of every millennial who has driven on a highway. If there's a truck with logs on it, you do not drive behind that truck.
I will go out of my way to switch lanes and go behind a extremely flammable truck rather than be behind one with a log.
Yep.
So this one is right up there for first, and not because, like, I'm not even going to say the effects are super great, because they're not. There's some obvious CGI on there, but
Hmm.
the slow way that it develops each character. even minor ones that you're like, okay, you're just going to get killed off quick. There's people that you love, there's people that you hate, and this is just in a 7-8 minute stretch where you're trying to figure out, what's going to go wrong with this building. And there's a little asshole that starts it all, that starts the wheel in motion of what's going to kill everybody. And from there on, it subverts your expectations. In every Final Destination movie, it starts with the premonition, and it zooms back out to show that the person that's having the premonition is in that situation, so that they can stop it. This
Yeah.
one flips the script on it a little bit, and it ends up being it's the granddaughter that sees what her grandmother went through, and
Hmm.
that just you're so used to this formula. So from that moment on, you're like, all right, we're in for something new. Let's see where this goes, and it goes so many different directions. But it's probably my second favorite in the franchise for sure. I'll let you touch on your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing, right? I mean, Final Destination 2 holds a special place in our generational hearts, right? But I mean, this film did a fantastic job because, you know, as much as I enjoy the franchise, I gotta say, number 4 and 5, they kind of veered into the campy area. You could tell the budgets weren't there. As creative as the deaths were, you almost felt like you were watching a B movie with some of them. But Bloodlines, you can clearly tell that the filmmakers really had an appreciation for what actually made the film so good, not just from a creative death aspect, but from tying it into, like you said, tying it into generational trauma and how death as an entity, it doesn't forget. It's whatever happens, the sins of our fathers 60, 70 years ago. Like it holds grudges, and it has its own, it has its own agenda. And of course, the final performance by Tony Todd of coming in and speaking with the new cast. I think creative kills, which is always fun. That's kind of inherent to any Final Destination movie. But I really thought the filmmakers really showed respect for the film. They showed respect for the legacy of the film. Because of Final Destination, I will also never look at lawnmowers the same way. You know exactly which scene I'm talking about, but I mean, I have a high amount of respect for this one. I thought they did a fantastic job. I'm really glad that it didn't veer into the campy territory, but you could tell they were trying to make something special, and I think they succeeded in that.
Absolutely, and you touched on Tony Todd and uh, Candyman, uh, and
Hmm.
how he passed, unfortunately, but he was such a staple in this franchise, and he on paper he had a minor role in this franchise, but
Yeah.
he left such an impact because even from the first Final Destination, hey, does Tony Todd play Death? And because he is so creepy in the first few movies, and
Hmm.
he has that snarkiness, and he
And
just
his character always knows something about Death's design. Like he knows more. You know what I mean? He knows more than anyone would. So you're always wondering, like, who is this guy?
right, because he also he gives them more information than you think that you would, and you're right, he knows exactly why it's happening. He knows the patterns, and I feel like the way that they pay this off, I'm not going to spoil it, but the way that they pay it off with him, it makes longtime fans of the franchise, and that's very hard to do, to subvert an expectation that you may have had for a long time. But and just the way he improv those last lines that he has.
I intend to enjoy the time I have left, and I suggest that you do the same. Life is precious. Enjoy every single second. You never know when. Good luck.
It if it doesn't make you a little emotional, then you don't have a heart. And it's so funny to say that in a movie where you're watching these horrific accidents.
And that's the
um,
truth.
Well, and what sets this one aside from the others is the others, you meet this group of friends, and you can't wait to see some of them get picked off, if not all of them. I'm looking at you, Final Destination 4, the NASCAR one, the 3D one. you're looking forward to that. And in this one, it's like it's going to happen, but they've given a layer of depth to every single one of these characters because they are a family. It's two sets of cousins. It's a brother and a sister who made their own family trees, and because of the different storytelling aspect of this, it takes you in a different direction because this initial disaster happened in the 60s, and obviously, if you've seen a Final Destination movie, you know that they prevent it. That's the whole reason why Death is coming after him. But
Uh-huh.
there's, like, I forget the exact number, but there's maybe 1,000 people. This building's over capacity, so all
Right.
of these people Death has to come after because they were all supposed to die in this building. And
Hmm.
not only do they come after them, but guess what? It takes a while for that to get through that list. So all these
Hmm.
people are having families of their own. So that it has to go in order of what family member was born when, and that's where this one picks up. Is it just happens to be this family's turn, and it, it's so heartfelt, and even the dumb kills on this that would never happen. Um,
Hmm.
it is just I'm thinking about, like, you said, you'll never look at a lawnmower the same. I'll never look at a vending machine or an MRI machine the same. And
Or a
it's
tanning bed, or a pane of glass, for that matter.
right, right. And that's what this movie is. This franchise is so great at. You can do the big disasters, but it's everyday items that that get these people. And it's so great how that happens. Like, Final Destination 2, it's a fire escape ladder out of nowhere, but you think it's going to be a garbage disposal, and just the way they go from that is absolutely incredible. If you have not seen Final Destination Bloodlines, you need to see it. It is so much fun. The ideas that
100% worth the ride.
oh my god, yeah, it's right up there with some of the best in the franchise. It has the heartfelt moments, uh, uh, but having said that, and it really pains me to say, but it ain't beating Weapons.
We have started with two juggernauts in
I
horror over the
know.
last 12 months. And as much as I love Bloodlines and the franchise itself, Sinners is still coming out on top.
Yeah.
It is taking down all challengers.
Which I'd like to know everyone else's feelings. Do you lie more on the sinner side or the weapon side? I'd be really curious to see where everybody lies on it, because it is so. And if you know what, if you ask me tomorrow, I may change my answer. But we're not
Hmm.
recording tomorrow, are we? All right. Next one, we're down to like the final 4 or 5 here. Which I'm not gonna lie, there's a couple campy ones on here now.
I mean, after Death of a Unicorn, you can kind of throw them in, right? It's like junk food.
Right, right. So now stepping in to be the contender is Clown in a Cornfield.
I'm so glad you landed on that one.
Yeah.
So I guess the bigger question for me is: have you read the book?
No, I have not. And after I saw the movie, like, I went into it blind. I was like, all right, let's see. It looked pretty creepy. It's, hey man, it's a creepy ass clown friendo who's chasing people through a cornfield. What more could you want?
Matter, kid? Don't you like clowns? Don't we make you laugh? Aren't we fucking funny?
I
And
mean,
then
it doesn't get any better, right?
right,
Especially when you take horror, you can throw it back to like the '90s and the late '80s, early '90s. There's a certain aspect of that time jump that sits with us differently, and I think it's because we have gotten so used to technology, right? Cell phones, iPhones, smartphones, GPSs, electric cars, all of that stuff. And remember when you and I were coming of age, none of that stuff existed. So being reminded of that in these horror films adds a little extra spice on it for me.
right. And like, going back to the book aspect, like, I had no idea it was a book until after the movie, and I read some reviews, and they kind of go into the differences and the similarities. So I just went into it judging it as it was, and it wasn't what I expected. And I think that in some ways it was good, but in other ways it was bad. I had this expectation in my mind of kind of what it would be, and I can respect the way that they went, but it also wasn't my favorite.
It's a fun ride, but
It is,
is it
yeah.
a great horror film? Come on.
it's again, I would put it in that kind of like that starter territory.
Yeah.
If if you're creeped out by clowns, because there are so many people that are scared by clowns,
Matter, kid, don't you like clowns?
and any haunted house you go to, there's a clown in there. Obviously, Stephen King's It. Everybody knows about Pennywise. Any clown out there. You could even call Gladys a clown. That's fine too. But that's what I thought when I saw Wet Willy. But, so the thing is with that, I was expecting so much more. I didn't like the reveal of what's actually happening and why. And I think it's just because my expectations were a little different. I'm not even going to say they were higher, but I was expecting something different. I think the motive behind it is interesting because it is a nice debate to have, and it's everlasting about which a how do I say this without giving it away though. We all have our generational thoughts and fears, and basically every generation thinks they're the best generation. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
Like now you hear kids going 6, 7. I'm like, God, you guys are so stupid. But we were walking around going, oh, that's tight.
Dope. That's dope, man.
That's dope. Yeah. So it plays into that, and it's a small town, and I really like the casting and the characters in it. And again, there's some really funny parts. But have you read the book?
I have not. It's actually been every time I walked into my favorite used bookstore, it's right there on the front desk, just staring me in the face. But I have such a backlog of horror right now that it's a ways away.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say this one is a super, like you said, it's not super scary. If you're
Yeah.
terrified of clowns, it's probably not going to sit super well with you. But the reveal, they do enough to, you're probably not going to lose any sleep like you would in some other clown-filled horror movies. So that one's going, again, not a bad movie. I think,
No.
like you said, it's a fun ride. There's some really funny performances in it. It's a good time. It's just not. No, and maybe someone listening completely disagrees and thinks it's awesome, and I want to hear those ideas. All right, final four. Let's see. Can anyone
What do we
dethrone
got?
our heavyweights here? All right. So this one I cannot wait to talk about because it is so. It is him, him, whatever you want to say. So this one, if you guys don't know, it is a football horror movie, which obviously you and I are football guys.
Of
We're big into
course.
sports. So I was really excited about this one. And it didn't do itself any favors in the sense that a lot of people probably went into this movie thinking it was done exclusively by Jordan Peele. And I I went for the bait on that, the first trailer that I saw, because stylistically it looked very much like Jordan Peele was the director of this movie, which he is not. Not to say that's a bad thing, but it is Jordan Peele's production company, Monkey Paw, that got their hands on this. And when you see it, you can see why. And I just kind of left this movie disappointed because the first two acts I thought were great. I'm usually not into the artsy horror movies. When they try too hard to be different and look different. It didn't bother me in this one. And I think it's just the culture of sports. There's a part at the very beginning that I had to audibly laugh at because it's when the main character is watching a football game of his favorite team with his dad, and the camera kind of pans over, and there's like this religious shrine for this football team. And I'm like, if you go in my basement right now, like the bunch of abs and nugget stuff, you could call it a shrine. It is funny how sports have become a religion. We're recording this tonight because your Packers play tomorrow night.
That's
So
right.
it is funny that and they touch on that really well with sports and uh, how it can consume our lives and how much time and effort and energy we put into it. And the jokes out there, it's like, oh, I can't wait till football season starts, so a team that's never known my name can determine my mood for the next 6 months. And And this movie it's around this up and coming rookie,
Mm-hmm.
and he is trying to I believe he was a projected number one pick. Some stuff happens, but he's trying to take the job of the face of the franchise, who's played by Marlon Wayans. And that was one thing that I thought I was going to hate about this movie, was that it's Marlon Wayans. He's Scary
Mm-hmm.
Movie. He is
He's comedy
he's
first and
he's
foremost.
he's white chicks. Yeah, he doesn't do anything too serious. So there's no way I can take him serious. Maybe he'll be the comic relief in this movie.
I'm on TV. Oh shit! First cops, now this.
Could not be further from the truth. He blew any expectations, no matter how low they were, out of the water. And I wish he had only shown this range earlier in his career. I didn't know I didn't recognize your game, bro. Like he he makes this movie. He is creepy. He is intense. He throws in some comedy in there too. He has to, but he makes the movie. And I'll let you get to your thoughts here in a second. But when it comes to the third act and the ending, I
Mm-hmm.
just think the receiver did not have both feet in bounds. The game is over. It did not stick the landing for me, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it.
You know, there's always an interesting dynamic in the films that have the, sell your soul to the devil to get, what you want in life. And, the main character, Cam, here, in his interactions with Marlon Wayans' character, Isaiah, they're extremely interesting. And they do lead to an ending that you don't see coming at all. The way that we take football players and put them on this pedestal, and any celebrity really, we put them on this pedestal, and we kind of look at them as otherworldly beings, right? Well, this film really does play on that, in that what Cam is asked to do and what Isaiah has done in his past. Obviously, he's kind of the aging quarterback that's kind of passing on his how should I say, passing on his wisdom to the next generation. The dynamic there and the play there, it does twist it in such a way that it gives that horror aspect that makes us look at the reasons we dare I say, worship these celebrities and these sports players. And we kind of ask ourselves, you and I got to grow up in the Tom Brady era, of just seeing someone who, obviously the GOAT, the greatest of all time without question. um, we ask ourselves, we know the TB12 method and just kind of the insanity the man put his life in to be the best, and what it cost him, and good for him for achieving it. And this film kind of throws a twist in there and says, well, those you obviously know the things that people have shared with you. What about the things that no one has shared with you? And it puts a horror twist on those unknown things. And as much as I did appreciate that, I do agree with you. I mean, this is a popcorn flick. It's nothing that sits with me after it's over. Once the credits roll, I'm not going to lose any sleep, and I'm not necessarily going to think about it a week or two after I watch it. So when I put it up against our current heavyweights, again, it just falls short.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on the Tom Brady aspect of it. The original film, the title of this film was going to be The GOAT. And there's a literal goat in this movie. But it, it it does, because everyone's made the joke, and they're making it with Patrick Mahomes now. Like, hey, did they sell their soul to the devil to make this happen? And there are those aspects to it where, yeah, because everybody was annoyed at how good Tom Brady was outside of Patriots fans. Everybody was annoyed at that, because he was, every single time he's out of it, he's going to do it. And there's so many Tom Brady callbacks in this. But what it also does is, it shows the intensity of football. And the way it was shot, what I really appreciated was, when they're doing their drills, it goes to like the X-ray vision, where they're banging their heads together, and
Mm-hmm.
concussions are so prevalent. And the main character here, he gets he gets fucked up in this movie. Like
Oh yeah.
and just on the football side, he takes some hits, and it almost derails his fictional career here. But the performances were great. I can understand why Jordan Peele wanted his name on it. And I believe the director was pretty young. It's one of his first projects, so I think it's a promising start. Like you said, it's not anything that you're gonna think about too much. I just left it wishing they'd stuck the landing a little bit more, even though it did take me in a direction that I didn't think it was going to. It did and it didn't. I thought it was going to be kind of along the lines of, okay, the Sell Your Soul story, how they came about that and who all's involved and, why it's happening, when it's happening. It just didn't hit for me, but that's okay. Again, I think you should see it, especially if you're a sports fan, and a football fan, because there's fictional teams. I can't remember, is the team named the Saints, but it's a fictional Saints.
The Saviors. Yeah.
Saviors, yeah,
San
Saviors.
Antonio Saviors.
Right. So there are those similarities in there, and it reminded me a lot of like Blitz the League, the video game.
Oh, I loved that game.
Oh, dude,
You
yeah,
could
where
choose to inject steroids to fix your broken leg and get
and
back on the field.
you're stomping on players' heads, and it shows the X-ray on what's
Yep.
happening to their skull. So it really reminded me of that. So sorry, him, HIM, URGONE. All right, final three here. Let's see, it's on the line. Okay, so this one, I saw this one in the middle of some of these other great ones. Actually, you know what? I saw it a little bit before. I think I saw it before Sinners and definitely before Weapons. So at the time, I thought, hey, this could be right up there. Together. And Together, it has Allison Brie and Dave Franco, and they are a real life couple. So that brings the great dynamic here. That they really play well off each other, and the premise of this is, a couple, they're struggling through their relationship. They're coming at a crossroads, and they have to they move because of Allison Brie's character, her job. She's a teacher, so they move. Dave Franco's character was a aspiring, I think, guitarist, bass player. He was going to be in a band.
Musician. Yep.
Yeah, and so there's that aspect of it, that dynamic. They're trying to navigate this. They're not married. They may get engaged. They may not. I'm not going to tell you, but there's some dynamics in the relationship that are really interesting. But they move to this town and they go off on an excursion. They go to this mysterious
cave,
hike.
I could almost call it.
Yeah, in the cave. And they get they interact with a substance that long story short, it makes them extremely dependent on each other. There's some body horror in this.
Particularly one scene in a bathroom stall that still sticks in my mind.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's some really uncomfortable moments there, like that. And again, if I had seen this movie, if others didn't come out, this could be at the top of the list. But and just because of the performances, because anyone that's in a relationship, there are always crossroads, and the fact that you have a real life couple portraying this and are having real arguments and are really deciding if they want to stick with this relationship or not, and then you throw into this like they literally are getting stuck together and trying to figure out why this is happening. Yeah, so that's the premise. Chris, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I love a good body horror film, and it's not necessarily because of just the gore of it, but it's because there's a piece of me that, like, your ultimate fear is something grotesque happening to your body, right? I mean, losing a limb, in this case, getting stuck to, get literally physically fused to somebody. That's a horrifying concept. And in this case, again, adding two people who are obviously married, playing the people in a relationship, I think adds an extra factor to the performance. But I think the premise is great. I love that Dave Franco and Allison Brie, who, by the way, are two hilarious actors. Allison Brie, of course, being in Community. Dave Franco's done a lot of comedic work, especially in Neighbors, which I like a lot. I think it's hilarious. see them do a horror film and pull off a horror film is fantastic. I thought it was a good original story. Like I said, I thought the performances were great. I thought as the tale goes on and you kind of see what's happening, you kind of see that they're not the only people that this has happened to. Opens up another dynamic that, again, makes it super scary because a good horror film sits in your mind, right? It makes you think about, well, what if that happened to me, or could that happen to me? And I think this film definitely does that. I definitely appreciated the ending. You kind of saw it coming, but it's another one that you're like, oh, this actually happened to them. So stuck the landing for sure. I just, unfortunately, it can't dethrone Sinners. Sinners still sits at the top, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, with obviously weapons, it again, it if I had seen it at a different time, or if it wasn't going up against the stiff competition, it'd be right up there. And the sick fucks that we are with body horror,
Oh
I
yeah.
was a little disappointed because there is one scene that they teased heavily. There's a saw involved,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see this play out. And then it's very disappointing how that plays out. But
Yeah.
but like the bathroom scene, yeah, probably makes up for it. It's not it's not the substance by any means. If anybody has seen that one is and you're a big body horror guy too. I know that's an episode that we're going to work on in the future. Is what's the best body horror, and it's a genre that is a subgenre of horror that is it's also making a somewhat renaissance, to the point where people are actually calling it what it is now, as opposed to just a sick movie. And it's amazing what some of these effects artists can do. And
Mm-hmm.
And in this one too, there is a very substance like creature, I guess you could call it. But it's not super like you're gonna have nightmares about, but it is creepy in the sense that, like, it's scary to not know if you're going to be with your partner or not, and if you could handle a rough situation like this. And there's a lot of undertones there. But yes, sorry, together, you're split up now. You're not going to make this list.
Quick shout out to the final scene of, well, I shouldn't say the final scene. Spoiler alert. The scene of the two of them dancing to the Spice Girls song, "Two Become One." Make of that as you will.
And that was awesome. Yeah, that was like I said, that's a great way to stick the landing. And it plays into their earlier part of their relationship too. Yeah, it's just such an what a year for horror, man.
Oh
There's
yeah.
so many unique ones. All right, last two. One is campy, one is not.
Let's see what we got.
Let's we are going we're going non-campy. So we are going Bring Her Back.
Ooh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, if there was one for me besides Weapons that was going to come close to dethroning Sinners, it would be Bring Her Back. I thought this was a fantastic film. I thought the premise was great. I thought the performances were great. I thought the horror and the dread in this film was great. It's not a perfect film by any means, but just when you see the lengths that people will go to protect the things, or I guess not even protect, to retain the things that are most important to them, especially people who don't have great support systems, i.e., bigger families, lots of friends, or maybe even they do. The idea that they will retain in any way, shape, or form that they can those precious things. I'm trying not to give too much away here, but seeing it played out and knowing that this kind of stuff does happen in the world just makes me shiver. And that's what this film did for me.
Right. And I mean, obviously there is a, supernatural aspect to this, but
Mm-hmm.
it is at the core, it is just it sounds stupid to say, but it is a family film. It is it it dives into those dynamics. There's, the two main characters. I mean, one is blind. That plays a major role, and it gives a different dynamic to it, to where you may not have thought about it. If it's just a brother and sister that are, that have to go stay somewhere else for whatever reason, sure, that's stressful enough. But when you add in these extra elements, it really really pulls at your heartstrings. You know, kind of like Good Boy did. You know, you want there to be a resolution, and you know there's not going to be a great one, no matter how
Mm-hmm.
this plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is getting traumatized for life, even if it works out in the best possible way. Um, Essentially, and you said this one is so hard not to give anything away. It's from the same director that did Talk to Me, which was also a
Mm-hmm.
great one. Talk to Me was, you know, if you haven't seen that one, I believe it's on a streaming service for free.
I think it's on Prime.
Okay, Prime has a lot of them, a lot
Yeah.
under the radar ones too. But um, and Talk to Me, it's the embalmed hand that you can see spirits with, and it's a party game. And this one is, I feel like, a lot meaner than that one. This one,
Mm-hmm.
because again, kids are involved. And there's some body horror aspects in this one too. I'm not going to say it's like, you know, the most gory movie I've ever seen, but there's a couple instances in this where it's really, like, I still think of it now. Like, it,
Sure.
yeah, it has, you know,
Cannibalism.
it has some cannibalism. It has some. I don't know if you've ever chewed on a knife before,
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
but it has some of
Ugh.
that.
It
Yeah.
reminds me of the scene in Evil Dead where the ghoul is licking. You remember where she takes the razor blade and just licks right through it?
Yep.
Ugh.
Yes, I do. Uh, I can remember one of the scary movies. They're making fun of Evil Dead. I think it's one of the newer ones, but yeah. And then, you know, the tongue sticking out, and then they close the basement door, and, you know, it severs it. But yeah, no, there are definitely a lot of moments in this movie, whether it's, you know, the gore, or if it's just the subject matter. It makes you feel very uneasy, and the whole movie is like this. And it's a dark movie. It's raining all the time. There's a pool involved that is, for me, it's, for whatever reason, it's very unsettling. And again, the performances are great. Just getting into the premise a little bit, there is this brother and sister. They are not blood brother and sister. The sister is blind, but their father passes away, and so they have to go to a foster parent. And this foster parent only wants to take the girl, not the boy, which they get into, but ends up taking both. And that's where things start getting very creepy. And I can't even blame this antagonist all that much, because, you know, you wouldn't know what you would do in that situation if, and again, I don't want to give it away, but
Sure.
you, as a parent, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would do any of that. But, you know, if I truly, because I, you know, love my kids, and if something ever happened to them, I would like to think I would do whatever. Um, Sucks that it's, you know, at the expense of two innocent kids here, but
The idea that, and this is another one of those movies that makes you go, you know, it's so easy for us to sit and watch. And again, this kind of ties back to what you and I were talking about at the beginning of why we love horror films so much. Is this is one of those movies that makes you go, oh my gosh, even though that's terrible, but I could never do that. That's the first thing a lot of people say. I could never do that. I think one thing that attracts me to horror so much is that I accept, well, actually, we're all capable of doing horrible things. All of us, every single one of us is capable of doing horrible, terrible things, such as things that are done in this film. What does keep us back is our, you know, our humanity, or, you know, our ability to see the fact that we haven't faced the choices that these people have faced, you know. And I think it's important for us to understand, like, despite how horrible and terrible they are sometimes, don't think for a second that you're not capable of doing it yourself, because I promise you are.
right. And it's just, you hit it perfectly. And now, granted, a lot of these movies, where
The
in
paranormal,
situations that these
supernatural,
people are
yeah.
in, or yeah, it's, you know, it's very far end of the spectrum there, about like, okay, I'm probably not gonna, you know, like, be in a Final Destination scenario or something, where,
Right.
or a good series of movies that dives into that are the Saw movies, which I
Mm-hmm.
Saw is one of my absolute favorites. But you'll watch those movies with the same type of thing, and those are a little bit more realistic because, like, well, if I was in a room with somebody and it's either me or him, I mean, what am I going to do to get out of there?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's other movies that have touched on that. There's one underrated one on I think it's on Netflix, and it's called The Circle, and it it the premise of it is, I think it's like 100 people are on I think it's on a spaceship or something, but they're all on this triangle, and they all have to vote for somebody to die like every 5 minutes or something. And so it goes into, like, age, race, uh, prejudices that people have, and it all comes out to play in that scenario. And it really makes I recommend The Circle on which is confusing because I think there's a reality show called The Circle as well on Netflix. But this one is good, but it goes back to that, just trying to get back to bring her back. Um, it's it's totally different than anything else that you could compare it to. Obviously, I mean, it says it in the title, bring her back. They are trying to bring someone back. I won't say who, I won't say when, but there are other movies where Pet Cemetery, like you touched on earlier, that's one
Mm-hmm.
where they try to bring people back. And so that's why I'm like, the antagonist, initially you're like, wow, she's creepy, she's gone off the deep end, and then you figure out why, and it's like, wow, it is about grief and selfishness and all that. So, and I agree with you in the sense that if it wasn't, it is probably number 3 on my list as well. It probably goes Weapons, Sinners, Bring Her Back,
Mm-hmm.
as the top 3. And that's a really good problem to have, because at any given time, I feel like those 3 could be interchangeable. But so definitely see that one. If it is a bit of a gut punch, no matter what background you come from, I'm sure everybody can relate to it at some point, um, on some aspect of it. But unless you have any other thoughts, we can get to our finale here.
I think let's bring in the last one and see what it can do.
Well, the last one is, I wish it was a little bit more climactic, but it's a fun one. It's a love story. It's Heart Eyes.
Hard eyes, motherfucker.
Okay.
And that
Not a
one, what's that?
not a bad one.
No, no, I actually had a lot of fun with this one. It's uh, it's on the lines of being, it's meta. It's like a discount Scream, kind of. It's a Valentine's Day horror movie. um a- and it follows, 2 people on a blind date, and um at least I believe that was the premise. And there's this killer. It's called the Hard Eyes Killer, and
Hard eyes, motherfucker.
he goes after couples on Valentine's Day. And uh, you know so he goes after all these couples. They do a weird, like, mockumentary news style to start, and that's a little strange, but it's a fun movie. I would still recommend it. We didn't put anything on this list that we wouldn't necessarily recommend, but as we get
Agreed.
into further in the show, there will definitely be movies that we're just like, we may even do a list of what's the best of the worst that we can think of, because it is fun to dissect movies that we hate as well.
Oh, for
um,
sure. They're definitely out
at,
there.
Oh yeah, yeah. We won't even talk about Halloween Ends right now, but that's one we could do a whole episode on. But in conclusion, my champ for the year is Weapons, and yours is Sinners,
We're going with
and
Sinners.
I don't think anyone could go wrong with either. If you haven't checked them out, please do. The only way that horror keeps going up is if you check out these movies and
Mm-hmm.
support. You don't have to like everything, but we want to hear about it. We're going to get going with the the very first matchup that we're going to have. We got to do two movies in a week instead of just one. But the
Mm-hmm.
first one we're going to have, and I believe, I haven't done a ton of research on it, but I believe they both have a little bit of found footage feel to it. We have
And I love my found footage films, man. It's one of my
and
favorite
then
genres for horror.
me too. And I know it's not for everybody, but that's also something that we really connected on. But we got um, Dream Eaters, which is a found footage film from Eli Roth, which already interests me because uh, his movies they're super gross. I already talked about Hostel.
We
And
can
the
take it all the way
Achilles.
back to Cabin Fever. His
Oh,
intro.
Cabin Fever. Oh man, that one still sticks with me and that one's hilarious too. There's some dumb things in that too, like the
Yeah.
pancakes part.
Pancakes! Pancakes!
No pancakes.
It's just a fun time. You have Sean from Boy Meets World. He's in that. That one's a good one. Green Inferno that he did. I love that one too. That one's super gross, but so I'm really interested in Dream Eater, and that is going to go up against. Why am I drawing on blanking on the name right now?
The lake, Shelby Lake.
Shelby Shelby Oaks,
Shelby
right?
Oaks, yes.
Shelby Oaks, yes.
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
So this one also has had a weird marketing campaign. I want to say it was crowdfunded, but I might not be
It did have a low
positive.
budget. For
Yeah,
sure.
and not even 100% sure what the premise is on this, but that's kind of how I like it. I know I've seen the poster and seen the trailer, and they're both super creepy. So I'm really excited to dive into those, and we'll see which one is our inaugural champ going forward. And each week we're going to try and hit a new release, and we're going to have some specialty episodes coming up, and just thank you guys for sticking this one out. It's a little longer than ones will be going forward, but I hope you got some good insight on these movies.
You guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much for listening. Ryan, it is a pleasure, sir. Can't wait to continue doing this with you. And for now, Chris and Ryan signing off.
The roasted snow.